welcome to Lee Judges TV. And listen, I am your host today. And listen, the reason I'm your host is because poor Dan Potts is not well. He's not drunk from celebrating yesterday's victory. He's just not well and has lost his voice. Some say that's a good thing. Some say that's a bad thing. Like, you know what I mean? But there you go. So, listen, we get on with it. Obviously, after what can only be described as a fantastic day at the Emirates yesterday, we've got a debut today, a debut for Adrian Divine. Listen, I've known Adrian for a very, very long while. Excellent coach. Adrian, how are you, my son?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Lee. Yeah, thanks for having us on. Yeah,
no
worries. Great weekend.
We'll get to you and your analysis and all that, because listen, I can tell you he's a very good coach. He transformed my son into from a forward to a top midfield player, and I said, I don't think you can do that, but he did. And my son went on to play for West Ham and Southend, so credits where credit is due. Tom, I feel like I've seen you somewhere today, like, you know what I mean? You know, what's going on here, like, you know what I mean, twice in a day.
Patchy memory, mate, patchy memory. It was good fun, wasn't it?
It's brilliant, like, now, a really lovely lunch. I'm going to say this now. I can't remember the last time, well, in all my life, a long, long time, like, you know, I've had Chinese for a lunch.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Anybody in the chat has not had a Chinese for a lunch, let us know, because I certainly haven't. I think it's the first time I've had. You had a lunch, Adrian, and a Chinese lunch?
No, I can't say I have, to be honest. No,
it's not the dumb thing, Tom. But of course, when you're out with Canton, and what was the name of the restaurant we went to, Tom? And what was it?
I think it might have been called Canton.
I don't know, like that. So there you go. Listen, I've just watched a drab game. That's why we're late today, because it was 15 minutes delay, and I actually thought that Spurs might lose today, but let's face it, I thought Fulham were poor. It never looked like scoring, and it was just boring watching Tottenham, like, you know. So unfortunately, didn't get the result there what we wanted today. But does it really matter after yesterday? Come on, guys, that was fantastic. What an atmosphere! What a performance! We'll let you go first, Adrian, as you are the debut man today. Like, you know, what's your thoughts on that game? What did you think of it?
Well, they're just outstanding, weren't they? And it's not that it's just one game. It's been every game for a long, long time, isn't it? They're being consistent with their performances at the moment, and you know you can't fault them. You know, they're working hard for each other. You know, they're just dominating teams, and what's great as well, you know, we're beating the top sides now. You know, we're not we're dropping points against them, and you know the way we're actually dominating some of these top sides as well in games is outstanding. So I mean, you know, credit's due to Arteta and his team, what they're doing at the club at the moment, because we've gone to another level this year, a level that I didn't think would certainly go to. But yeah, it's just great to watch, isn't it? You know, we're riding a wave at the moment, just as long as, you know, I hope it just continues.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, like, you know, it's a great point. I'm going to say that as well. We actually spoke about that earlier on, Tom, didn't we? Over lunch. And on your art, did anybody see us being this good? It's an incredible turnaround of events. You know what I mean? Like, to be that consistent. I think that's what more is for me. If I'll be really honest, I see some performances last season. We see the performance against Manchester City. I know we lost that game, but the performance was fantastic. We see some really good performances. But I'm going to say it's the consistency levels. Where have they come from?
I think it's about having quality spread throughout the team rather than Arsenal having typically 1, 2 or 3 standout performers, because, you know, I think Ben White in particular has been fantastic this season, but wasn't particularly on it against Man United, probably one of his worst performances. I thought Partey in the first half as well was a bit down on what you would generally consider a performance from him this season. But because you've got so much quality spread throughout the team, despite those players maybe being a bit under what we would expect from them, the rest are pulling up the team. And so that consistency then feeds through in every single fixture, because it's not a case of, say, Alexis having a game off or Aubameyang having a game off when he was kind of on form for us up top, or, you know, you go further and further back. But it's more so, say, in the last decade and a half, we've had teams where you've had 2 or 3 standout performers that if they're not there, it's a massive, massive problem for us. But because we've got quality spread throughout the team, that easily creates an element of consistency, I think, going through each fixture.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It is the new players that come in. I've got to talk about Adrian. You've been a coach for a long while, coached some good players, and have you ever seen this? I'm going to have to be honest. I've never seen this role that Zinchenko plays. I've never seen nothing like it. I actually watched a bit of the analysis today and things like that. I don't know who it was. Someone says he's got a free role at left back. It was incredible. It was an incredible performance yesterday from him. Incredible.
No, he was. I mean, look, Saka got a lot of the plaudits yesterday, but for me, Zinchenko was the one who, pretty much started everything. He goes into midfield, doesn't he? And it must be such a pain for the opposition because he comes out of nowhere, and what that does for me, he comes central, and then it overloads the opposition's midfield. And I'm pretty sure they don't really know what they're doing after that. They have to come out and press, and what that does, it gives room for Xhaka and Odegaard. I mean, I was watching it again. I watched it again today. And the amount of times Xhaka and Odegaard went round Martinelli and Saka on the outside, simply because they were able to, the space was created for them. And what Zinchenko does, I mean, he's such a good passer of the ball as well. And it allowed our two central midfielders and Odegaard to have that free role. And that's why, Xhaka's playing further forward for me. And he's been outstanding doing that. But what also is good is when the move breaks down as well for me, that in past games, seasons gone by, we'd get caught in a break and teams would score against us. But because Partey sits there and then he's able to sit, if it does break down, we're able to recycle the ball a lot quicker and stop teams from getting out against us. And it proved it yesterday when on the second goal that Saka scored. It came from Xhaka actually coming back, pressing the ball high up, winning the ball back, and then the ball going out wide. And then Xhaka was able to do Saka was able to come inside, and then obviously, great finish from him. But it all started from Zinchenko just ghosting into midfield and creating that overload in there. And it must be hell for opposition. I think what they do, they then try and go narrow, which creates that room out round wide for me. And we exploit that so well. He's outstanding. How Man City let him go, I don't know.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'll tell you one thing that I noticed today, because I had a little watch of it. I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched the highlights. And like Zinchenko gets a lot of praise, and he does, because he does go off post, should I say, off post. He goes off on a random. It does create a lot of space there, which Gabriel, by the way, I don't think gets the plaudits that he should do from there, Tom, because he doesn't get skinned in. If you have a look on the other side, Saliba has got more a defensive cover
Protection,
there with either Tomiyasu or Ben White. Gabriel doesn't have that. And he doesn't get exposed, does he? That much.
That much, I think, is the key word. Yeah, it's near impossible for it not to happen on occasion because of how adventurous Zinchenko is. But that I think is why the appreciation for Gabriel, maybe this season in particular, it should have been higher at the start of the campaign. Because I think it's only really after the World Cup that Gabriel's really started to get the plaudits that he deserves from his performances. Yes, there's been mistakes in his game. But usually when he's made mistakes like we saw against Fulham earlier in the season when he gifted that goal to Mitrovic, is that he responds. I mean, he scored the winner in that game, of course. But I think he responds in other ways with his performances and his consistency. But in particular, after the World Cup, he has outshone Saliba in his performances. And I think in part that is to do with how much of the air on the left-hand side he is having to cover with Zinchenko being as adventurous as he is. It's interesting because you think about Zinchenko and you think that maybe we'd have a vulnerability in behind, but actually statistically when Zinchenko plays, our defensive record is better with him in the side. Yeah. So it's interesting that's the case. But I think that is a lot to do with us having a lot more control of the ball with Zinchenko there, and obviously the opposition aren't therefore given as many opportunities to attack us because they just don't have the ball as much. So I think that is in part to play. But if you think about the only game we lost this season, it wasn't Man United when Zinchenko started, and Anthony, of course, did manage to get in behind Zinchenko. You fast forward to January now, and we've played together for so much more time, and the system's that much more set and integrated. It's Gabriel's covering that area so much better than he was at the start of the season, and that shows real good coaching and progression from the team.
Yeah.
What I will say, this is for me, what does this tell us about the team? Because I look at beating Spurs, that's fantastic. It was a great result. It was brilliant. We all love that one, of course. And then you've got another massive game coming up. and I don't think it's the plaudits get enough for back-to-back tough games, mentally, physically, everything that goes with that. And I thought, I don't know if Manchester United run out of steam or we just overpowered them at the end of the day. But what does that tell you about this team? That it's not just one result and then a poor result or one a draw. You know, this was sufficient to win this game. I thought it was significant that we got the result, and at the end of it, the longer the game went on, the stronger we got.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, it goes right way back when Arteta came into the club. You know, he's what he's done for me is, well, it's near on a miracle. You know, he's turned this football club upside down. You know, he's come in. He's got into the board. This is what I want to do. It's going to take some time. I mean, I can't remember what it was, Lee. We were chatting about it. It was I think there's only 4 players left from the first team that he inherited from when their first game against Man United. Actually, I think there's only 4 players left: Holding, Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli. From the so it's credit's due to him where he's just got rid of the deadwood, and the hardest thing for Arsenal fans to get with the likes of Mustafi and all that lot. It was hard to get them out of the club because they're on high wages and they wouldn't want to go. So credit's due is where it's all started from him really, and then what's happened as time's progressed and he brought in the players that he wants, and he's worked hard. You can see all the players know exactly what they're doing, and that's all down to what he's doing on the training field, and he's got the team to where he wants them right now. But you can tell there's still more to come, and it's just down to him and his hard work. If you ask me, I think he's done fantastic. And the fact is now, where last year where we'd get 4 or 5 wins on the bounce and then we'll just go off the boil, we're not doing that at the moment. And one of the big factors as well, which really for me is huge in the football club, is that under Wenger, we were getting injuries left, right, and centre. And we would have some games where we'd have 5, 6, 7 players out, which obviously is going to hurt any team. At the moment, touch wood, we're not picking up any injuries at the moment, and that's probably down to Arteta and the way the club have brought in the right players to obviously aid their recovery when they finish football matches, and the way we play, we play such a high pressing game. It wears teams down, and that's exactly what happened against United. Liverpool at home as well was another one. We're just relentless at the moment, and teams just tire, and in the end, something gives, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. The consistency with the results is down to, I think us keeping the ball superbly well and just pressure on all the time. I can't praise Arteta enough. I think he's been brilliant.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. Like the work rate of the side, because I've just watched that game there today, Tom, and it was like 2 yards slower. Wasn't the intensity of what I see yesterday from both teams yesterday, Manchester United and Arsenal. Are Arsenal at a different level now? Are they at a different level to other teams where in the past we've sort of said, Manchester City and Liverpool are at that different level? Am I looking at it now and thinking that Manchester United, Arsenal, Newcastle, maybe definitely Manchester City are at a different level to the teams just below them now? Or is it just that we watched 2 poor teams tonight?
No, not necessarily. I think that did you watch the Liverpool-Chelsea game this weekend as well? Because that was like, in terms of quality, quite low. It was
poor. It was poor.
It was a drain of a game. I think that it's more to do with kind of the cycles that teams are in. Like Liverpool are kind of reaching the end of a cycle, if you like, of kind of their top talent. And they've had a lot of players like out of the kind of moving out of their prime. Van Dijk, Mane's left, Salah's coming to the end of that prime kind of period. And they're trying to bring younger players in to replace. They have been unlucky with injuries, to be fair. Chelsea have obviously got a lot of injury problems as well this season. And their scattergun approach to recruitment, I think, has shaken things up for Potter to make it very difficult for him to kind of implement what he wants to do with that group. And it is going to take time for that to settle. Whereas Arsenal are, 3+ years into a project that has developed over time. And I think that, yes, whilst the first couple of periods, or the first real long period under Arteta wasn't it wasn't what we wanted it to be on the pitch in terms of results, but I think it was kind of a necessary kind of step back to take 2 steps forward, unfortunately. Like I always use the analogy of like, if a car's going downhill, when you press the brakes, you don't stop immediately. You still continue going downhill for a bit before you can then accelerate up the hill. And I think that probably encapsulates what Arsenal is as a club, is we had to go a bit further backwards to stop the slides, to stop the regression, to add in the players and the quality that we needed to turn things around. And that is putting Arsenal onto a level above certainly Chelsea. I mean, we've got a great record at winning at Stamford Bridge, but this is the first time this season where we went to Stamford Bridge, dominated by far the better team. It wasn't us hitting them on the counter. You know, they didn't get a look in. The Man United game away from home this season, we should have won. You know, we were wrongly ruled out that goal that kicked things off. We should have won that game. It's going to be interesting when we play Man City, because when we played Man City last season at home, I thought we should have won that game at home. And we were very unlucky not to win that game. Obviously, Gabriel's red card was a massive impact, and Martinelli should have had a goal as well, that he missed an open goal there. But we were royally beaten at the start of that season by Man City in the 5-0 defeat. And this season, I expect that to be very different. But yeah, we're a level above, because I think we're on that pathway of development so much further ahead of the other teams that you talked about.
And Adrian, what I noticed yesterday, I know obviously, like, you know, we've had Newcastle come here who were in the top 4, and now we've had Manchester United in it. I thought Manchester United, to be fair, give it a bit of a go yesterday. I thought they looked dangerous, particularly in the first half. Tomiyasu, I think, has to take a lot of credit, because he stopped Rashford at the end. But with 20 minutes to go from the end, this is Man United, top 4, unbeaten in so many games, winning games, you know. Changed tactics, brought on Fred to stifle the midfield, and also to stifle Saka on that side. And then you watched, and I felt it was a poignant moment, this, when the goalkeeper feigns an injury just to time waste a little bit, that extra minute or whatever, like, you know. It is, but it is something to think about and behold, that teams it's not just the, you know, you expect it from, I'm not being horrible, a Bournemouth or someone struggling down the bottom of Everton come there and all that, but these are the top teams of the English Premier League doing the things that the bottom teams you would think would be dogging for a point. That's a compliment at the highest level as far as I'm concerned. What do you think of that?
Oh, of course it is. You know, I mean, old habits die hard, isn't it? I mean, at some point, you know, in years gone by, United would have gone on and won that game. You know, they would have broke away, and you know, we would have been pressing, but we would have left ourselves open. We're not doing that now. We every time teams do recycle the ball against us, we are able to win that ball back higher up pitch, and it's stopping. You know, that dreaded, oh my God, you know, the other teams are going to nick one in the 90th minute sort of thing. You know, we've seen it so many times in the past, but. Yeah, I mean, look, Spurs did it at the Emirates, didn't they? They took a hiding, and Conte brought on all the players to try and shore it up. You know, United, a draw away at Arsenal, top of the league, flying. You know, it's a good result for them. And United were good yesterday. You know, Rashford is, he's gone to another level. And you touched on Ben White. I wouldn't say he struggled yesterday, Ben White, but he's up against a player who's, on top of his game. But to go back to your point, Lee. We've not seen that in a long, long time, where teams have tried to shut up shop and nick a point. But, the Newcastle are the only team that have done it, really, haven't they? I mean, I thought Newcastle defended outstandingly against us, and we struggled to get past them. But, I mean, we were all over them for 20 odd minutes. And then, their manager makes a couple of good changes and it stifles our attack. But, United did try to do the same yesterday. But, we got the goal that we deserved. Again, Zinchenko from the cross. He's popped up on the left-hand side this time. He's probably, the team's probably gone narrow, thinking he might come through the middle, and then he's gone down the left-hand side, crossed it, and we've nicked it at the end. But yeah, it's a huge compliment to Arsenal that teams are doing that, but they can keep doing it. But if we keep winning, then it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Listen, Radamango, I think that's what his name is. Come out of a point here, to be fair, we did have a week's rest compared to them.
Yeah, that did. I think that probably did.
Is it, Tom? Is that big? Was that a big thing, or should these players be used to 2 games a week?
Well,
or is it an advantage?
Look, it'd be naive of me to say that it's not an advantage. Having a week's rest compared to them. I think they only made one change, which was McTominay in for Casemiro. So, yeah, they would have expended more energy midweek. But you are also right to point out that at this level, you should be able to be at a position where you're playing 2 top-level games a week, because these are Champions League level teams that we're talking about. So it's absolutely a slight advantage, but I don't think I necessarily saw Man United look necessarily ragged in the game, to be honest. I've seen Arsenal look ragged in the past. I've seen teams come to Arsenal look ragged this season, and I didn't necessarily get that. I think towards the last 20, they were tiring a bit, because obviously we would, and I think most teams would in that scenario, not just because they played in midweek, because Arsenal were on at them the whole game, constantly. You had Zinchenko pulling players left and right and pulling players centrally, and they were constantly compressing and expanding through kind of the different channels that we were operating in. And I just think that it's a lot it's a bit of a reach to say that Arsenal's week off compared to their midweek game was the real difference as to why Arsenal were able to win this one.
No, it's not the difference for me at all. To be fair, though, the last team you want to come up against if you played a game in midweek would be Arsenal right now, wouldn't it? So, no.
I agree. But look, I'm going to get this Casemiro thing right out I'm getting it out right now, like, you know what I mean? Like Adam said about, he had no Casemiro, like, you know what I mean? He had no Casemiro. He would have controlled the game. You know what I mean? He would have done this. He would have done that. He played against Crystal Palace. They didn't win. And was he controlled? And was he with that tackle and all that? No, he wasn't. Like, I'm not having all of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have Casemiro. Like, and we didn't have Jesus. You know what I mean? Like,
whose fault was that? It was his at the end of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah. So at the end of it, you have what you have. You deal what you deal with. At the end of it, like, I'm not having it like, we would have controlled the game when he was there. Like, he didn't control the game in the last 5 minutes at Crystal Palace, did he, Adrian?
No, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. He's an outstanding player, and he's a big.
I'm with you.
I'm
with you on that.
He's a 3, 4, 5 times Champions League winner, isn't he? And don't get me wrong, he probably would have made a difference, but he weren't there for a reason. And at the end of the day, that tackle against Zaha was the reason why he weren't there. And that's down on him, isn't it? But to say he would have controlled the game, I don't know. I think the way we overloaded midfield in the end, I don't know. He's outstanding. I'm not going to sit here and say he isn't, but Partey's outstanding, and he didn't play. His last 2 games, he's not been. He's given the ball away quite a bit too much. But there was you had a debate, didn't you, about who's the better holding midfielder? But it's hard. 2 great players, aren't they? And if Casemiro plays, who knows what would have happened? But I don't think it would have changed the result, if I'm honest.
I'm with this. I'm really with it. I wanted Casemiro to play because then because I'm fed up with teams or people turning around and going, we spissed this and you had this going wrong with you and all that. Like, you know what I mean? For me, I wanted him to play, Tom. I wanted him to be out there and then beat them. Like, listen, every team has injuries and all that. Like, listen, I get that he's a great player for them. I really do. Like, but come on, this is Manchester United, who, by the way, I thought were outstanding yesterday. I thought that's the best team that's come there. And if they get a proper centre forward next season, they are going to be real title contenders, Tom. Like, so I think it's a disservice on certain. I tell you what, they played a lot better against us than they did Crystal Palace, and Casemiro was in the side.
I think they played better against us than they did Man City, and they got a win in that game. They tactically they knew how to work City, and we might need to take a little bit of a tip from that when we go there, not necessarily when they come here, because they are different types of fixtures. But I agree with you. I don't like this kind of we went toe-to-toe with Arsenal line as well. I see a lot of United fans. It's like, yes, they played well, but I think the XG was something like 2.6 plus for us and 0.6 and below for them. Like, it was a close scoreline, sure, but if you look at the actual overall game, they played well, but they played well because we had to force them into playing well defensively and having to deal with what we did. I think we had something like maybe 20 more shots than they did in the game or something like that. So it's, whilst the scoreline was close, yes, they've come to Arsenal and nearly got a result. But again, it's kind of similar to how I look at the difference between the Chelsea games for us now this season. In the past, we went to Chelsea and got a little bit fortunate in some games with how we won on the counter. Whereas this season we went to Chelsea and dominated and won. That's the clear difference. And that's something to look at positively. If you go to a team and you're kind of holding out and you're looking to nick things on the counter, that's not what a team that's looking to win a title does. So I'm not really that fussed about Man United right now. I think you're right in the sense they've got a good manager, and with time and the right players in, they'll be up there. But this season, it's not a case of something I think I need to be concerned about.
No, I'll tell you why I felt it was also an important win for us, because Manchester United now have gone to Man City, played them home and away. They played Arsenal home and away. So that they can, they're still dangerous. They were dangerous. You know what I mean? Like now we've got those points in front of them. Sorry?
They've been flying. They've been flying, haven't they? United. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think that was, a really, really good performance, a really good win for us today. I think it ended a little few doubts, because if we'd have drawn that game, people would have said, Adrian, I'll be honest with you, they said, oh, look, Newcastle come to you and they've got a draw. Man United have come to you and got a draw. There's been a little bit of pressure on us there, but we overrode that. Like that last 10 minutes, the difference, I think, between that game and Newcastle game is that we brought on our new signing, Trossard, in that last 10 minutes. And I think, when you've got a tiring defence, with someone like, I tell you, people say Martinelli didn't have a great game. It was I thought, a fascinating battle between him and Wan-Bissaka. It was brilliant, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he had to work to his full potential to keep him quiet. And then you get a fresh pair of legs come on. I think that was key, Adrian. I really do.
Right. It's squad depth, isn't it, at the end of the day? Trossard, he's been brilliant for Brighton, hasn't he? But he came on, and I'll tell you, I said to you earlier, didn't I? There was a part in the game where he was just inside their box, and he had 3 Man United players around him, and he had that real close control, both left foot, right foot, and it reminded me a little bit of Santi Cazorla, how he used to play and get out of tight spots. But I know everyone, a few people said about Martinelli, he's not been at his best. I mean, yeah, maybe he hasn't, but like you say, what I love about him, he lets the fullback know that he's in the game all the time. And Wan-Bissaka played very well yesterday, I thought, against him. But like, I totally agree with you. We were able to bring him off, and Trossard come on, and he made a difference yesterday. He came on, and I'm really looking forward to him actually playing some more. He looked good yesterday, and he played a part in the goal at the end there. So. We talk about squad depth for Arsenal, and it is true. Arteta plays the same 11 every week, and if I'm going to have any concern going forward, is that burnout would be what I think a lot of us would probably be worried about. So this window is massive for us, and being able to bring in a quality player like Trossard and what he did yesterday made a difference for us to win that game, and in 20 million, Mudryk 80, 90 million. And look, don't get me wrong, he looked good when playing for Chelsea at the weekend. But this lad's Premier League proven, and what he did yesterday, he proved that he can cut it at Arsenal Football Club. And I still think we need maybe 1 or 2 more, but. This window's important for Arsenal, and I really think we can't have a better chance of winning the Premier League. So it's a great signing for us.
Yeah, I do. One other thing, Tom, I've got to say this. Yes, Trossard made a difference, but I'm going to say it now. I think the Arsenal fans yesterday made a difference. And I mean this sincerely. 1-0 down, and you could have got that. Oh, here they go. This is typical and whatever. But everybody got on. There was a big roar of emotion from the players, encouraging the fans. Mikel Arteta, I don't know if you noticed that, he was telling the fans to pump it up as well. Not that they needed being telling, to be fair, but they did. No coincidence. 6 minutes later, we're level again, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's are we the 12th man now? I quite like that. I quite like it.
Yeah, the Emirates has always been a stadium where we've kind of been willing for it to have a bit of a soul like Highbury did, because it really did feel like we were moving into a bit of a shell of a stadium, with that, because it hadn't got the history and, it didn't carry the noise like Highbury did. And, we went through a lot of difficult years in that ground. And we're finally kind of getting to a position where the Emirates itself might have its own kind of really golden era successful period, which we hope that it will. Not that the FA Cups weren't special, of course, but, you win them in Wembley and, you win your titles playing in your home stadium. And I think that when you've seen the reaction to not only that, but we've seen across the season, you think about when we conceded first against West Ham on Boxing Day, you think about when Saliba scored that own goal against Leicester at the start of the season, the reaction of the crowd was so telling in both of those moments, where in seasons gone by, it might kill off the atmosphere completely, and it's really important to have that belief. And it is Arteta, I think, that you have to point to, that has, in his vision and in what he's tried to bring to the team, has brought that belief to the fan base back. We've restored the connection between the club and its fan base through communication from the top as well. They've been so coherent about what they want to do. And I think they've definitely... They take on board, I think, feedback from supporters. You think about the artwork that's going up around the outside of the Emirates. That came from what I'm told, is that they basically sat down with different fan groups with a blank sheet of paper, no preconception about what they were going to do, and said, look, we're going to put together this thing and we want you to inspire this. They want the fans to be at the forefront of everything now. And that's a great place for us to be, because there are a lot of clubs that don't have that privilege. So...
Well, 100%, 100%. And I'll tell you what, it's a privilege going to the Emirates at the moment. Like there was a seat, like, this time last year, or even maybe a little bit longer. It was a chore going to the games. They were like tough watches. The entertainment now, like, I'm sitting there, like, falling asleep during some of those games, and I think the turnaround now is unbelievable, like, But there was a part of that game yesterday when when the far the greatest team, Arsenal, the far the greatest team the world has ever seen. I have never experienced. It was everybody in the whole ground, apart from the Man United fans, were singing it. It was absolutely unbelievable, Adrian. It was unbelievable. And it's got to be inspiring those players. It's got to be, because I'm getting inspired. I feel that I'm contributing. I really do. I know it sounds silly, but I felt, I felt at Tottenham last week, I helped Arsenal win that game of football. I felt it yesterday as well. I haven't felt like that for a real long while. You know what I mean? I really haven't, like, and the atmosphere yesterday was sensational.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree. It's all down to what Arteta's brought to the club. I mean, I was thinking about that, the documentary of last year, and I remember him being in a change room with that light bulb, wasn't he? He was trying, turn a connection on with the fans, and and then you'll create something, and it will snowball, and and that's what's happened. Success breeds success, doesn't it? At the end of the day, and he's got the team playing a brand of football that I know we used to see great football in the Henry days, and even under Arsene Wenger's team at the Emirates Stadium, but the team. They're playing so well. Everyone knows what they're doing, and it's all down to him at the end of the day. And because of that, the connection's back with the club, with the fans. I mean, I wasn't there yesterday. I mean, Lee, I'm always all week I was pining you for a ticket and asking for a ticket. A year ago or 2 years ago, I could get a ticket like that. It was no problem. But they're gold dust at the moment. And
They are like, I mean, there's always like one or two going in the group, weren't there? Like, what I mean? Like nowadays, there's not, I've got a WhatsApp group with a few of us on there. There's a few season ticket holders, and there's always one or two that used to say like, oh, I ain't got a ticket. Anybody want a ticket? And I used to grab it for you and whatever, like, But now, you know what I mean?
I went to the Spurs game last year when we beat them. And it was electric then, but I mean, then we go on a bit of a bad run, and then suddenly, like you say, that it starts to drop. But we're at a level now where, the crowd, like when we went 1-0 down yesterday. I mean, you see Odegaard, throwing his hands up to the crowd, and the crowd reacting to it, and it can only be positive for the players. And like you said, 7 minutes later, we've gone back down the other end and scored. So, but again, it's just about the fact that we're playing a brand of football now that. We don't. You said it a few times, Lee. I don't worry about teams coming to the Emirates anymore. I don't worry about us possibly not winning a game of football.
It's
like go 1-0 down,
I'm with you on that. Like,
we're coming back.
actually,
We're coming back for you, aren't we? And it's great. And
yeah,
we're doing it.
listen. I don't mind admitting it. I lost 2.5 hours sleep over the Tottenham game. I couldn't get to sleep properly. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then
you're buzzing.
And then when I thought, well, what did I waste my time worrying about that for? It was like, you know, it wasn't a breeze, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm going to say something now, Tom. I was worried about that documentary. I'm going to be really honest with you. I've seen all the episodes bar the last one. I can't watch the last one. I might watch it one day, but I can't watch it. Like, you know,
Watch it.
I will do one that. But I think personally that documentary done Mikel Arteta the world of good. I think that was the turning point where a lot of people had little doubts over him, and we've all had them. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like. Some more vocal than others, but we've all had them. But I think, looking back on that, I think he come out so well in that, and I think that was a turning point for him. Do you agree with that, or is that just something?
No, I don't. I think what's key about the documentary and Arteta is that is him.
That is.
It's really easy to turn around and be like, you know, he knew there were cameras there. He could have played up to things. I know for a fact from being told plenty prior to knowing that we were having the Amazon documentary that is exactly what he is like. He hasn't watched it, by the way. He's not watched that series back. He kind of refuses to, which is funny. I don't know why, but he was asked about it. I was in the press conference when he was asked, and he's just said no. Like he doesn't want to watch it back. And I think there's part of it that maybe doesn't like how revealing it was, because he's very secretive. He doesn't like giving things away. You know, it's awful being in those pressers. Asking him a question is a bloody nightmare because you never get anything from him most of the time. He doesn't want to tell us anything. So I loved how raw it was. I love how genuine it was. Some of it, we looked and maybe cringed at a few things, like the Liverpool Anfield speaker stuff. But he only does things because he thinks that's the best way to get across something. He's trying to communicate. You've got a team of 25 players. Some of them don't speak English. Some of them speak languages that he doesn't speak, even though he is very fluent in a number of languages. And you have to try and get messages across in qualitative ways. And you're only going to have to do that with things like, the light bulb or the messaging. Or I think did you see the picture of the identity that came up in the Spurs away changing room after North London Derby the other day? Behind Gabriel, there's this big picture of identity with the Arsenal players on it. And it's just things like that kind of give you the indication that he just gets it and he knows what he needs to do to get what he needs to get across to everyone.
One of the greatest things of it all, and because we've been in dressing rooms and everything like that, and I get all that stuff for the light bulb. But for me, the best thing that I see was that when we played Everton, he come in at half time, we was 1-0 up, and he warned all those players, if you don't start on your game, you'll lose this game. He emphasised it. He was very, very emotional about it as well. And then coming to the end of the game, we lost 2-1. He come in there. And that's what I loved. I told you so, you know what I mean? Yeah. And he really gave him a rollicking. And from that moment on, that's when I felt to myself, do you know what? I can get behind, because I felt I was furious that day. But he see it as well. He told the players. And I just think that was a very, very good moment, Age. We've all been in dressing rooms when managers say things and whatever, But I think that was a very, very poignant moment when, you're telling professional footballers, if you don't back up your ideas, this is going to happen, and they didn't, and he slammed them for it.
Well, I've been in change rooms with you many times, Lee, when you slam the team when they've not done what they should have done. But I mean, what that boils down to with Arteta's standards, isn't it? He's setting a high standard that he expects his players to abide by, and I mean, you've only got to look at the Aubameyang situation, isn't it? He's, although as Arteta calls it, the non-negotiables, and that's what he's distilling in the whole team. And what's great is that all the players are buying into it. And those that aren't are gone. And we always say sometimes having a go at your players is probably not the right thing to do, but it's picking your moments, isn't it? And picking your times when you do it. And yeah, I agree. In the Everton game, I think he did in the Forest game as well, in the FA Cup.
Yes, in the FA Cup game as well. I'll tell you what is a thing as well. Tom, do you think that, I know it's not great that we lost to Newcastle, we lost to Spurs and all that, but do you think that we've those two results, we've learned a little bit more? I'll tell you why this is, because I remember playing a game years ago. I played in a semi-final, and I'd done it to my players when I was younger with the boys as well. Like, we lost the semi-final. Come into the dressing room, and you know when you can hear the other team going mad and all that, and then someone said, "Shut the door," like, you know what I mean? And the manager went, "Leave it open," right? And it said, "Listen to that. Listen to that. Remember how you feel tonight, and don't let it ever happen again." You know what I mean? Like, and I took that on board. You know what I mean? Like, and I used that. I used that for a couple of times that I'd done. But those two games were pointing defeats. Do you think he come back in and he said this? If do you think that, like, there's a real, I say, like, you don't want to lose games, but if they were to lose those games, and we did, he made sure that there was a point to losing those games. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's why I think you should watch the last episode, the series, because it shows you how he reacts in those games. The Newcastle one in particular, like, he just kind of turns around and just says to him, like, you blew it. Like, this was our chance, and that wasn't good enough, and you've let the club down basically with that performance because it wasn't good enough. And he said all the things that I wanted, if I was in there and I could say to the players, I would say. So I think that he's just very savvy, like, he's very clever, and I think he knows through, and he's backed as well. You can't say he's not backed by the club. Yes, we don't always get our priority targets because we've got principles about how we want to do things in the market, sure, but we then react and pivot and get backup options and alternative options that have also done very, very well for us. But he is backed in terms of his vision. He's been backed in terms of time. After Villarreal, I did a whole show on my channel saying that he should have been sacked, and the word was should, because I just couldn't see clubs of the size of Arsenal keeping on a manager in that moment.
Exactly my feeling as well.
And I just think that I couldn't see then clearly what they were seeing, and I couldn't see that it was indeed the right decision to keep him on, even though I could see the things that were improving. I couldn't get myself out of the mindset of, well, you sack a manager, that's what you do, because we've gone back, we're still going backwards. And as I used that analogy earlier on, I couldn't see yet that things were going to pick up, and thankfully they really did in such a special way. But it's so key to this team to have Arteta being as he is with this group in particular, because he is the perfect fit, and he's now brought in players to create that perfect fit for the player side of things as well. So yeah, I think he creates accountability, which is something that we've lacked a lot in the last decade prior to him arriving.
Yeah, I have to say that. Listen, I'm as you well know, I'm one for results and things like that, and there was times when I did think he was very fortunate to keep his job, and I still say that with those performances, and then those 3 games after the season. But once he got his players in and all that, like, a few people said, "Oh, let's see what he does with his players and all that." And I looked at it and I see improvements, and I started to give him a little bit of praise for what he'd done and all that, like, and again. I remember us going on a run and then losing those 3 games. I said, no, let's see where he goes to the end of the season. You could see that there was slight improvement. And I did feel that we would have a good chance of top 4 this season. I wasn't convinced that we would get top 4. But the turnaround of this football club has just been incredible from the whole thing, like, you know what I mean? Where I'm going to be really honest, I resented going. There was a stage where I wouldn't buy anything from the Arsenal. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I wouldn't go in there and buy anything. I've got a stack full of stuff now. Like, I can't help it. I can't help it.
They bring out stuff on the website, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to buy that.
Like, I put it down. I go, well, tax reasons. You know what I mean? I can get it. Like, you know what I mean? So, it is. But that's what it's doing. Everybody seems a real part of it. whether you're a ball boy at the game or a mascot or in the fans and all that, and it's just wonderful to see everybody happy and buzzing around at the moment. And one of the things that I will say this, and we had a laugh about it. Like I sit with Kevin, Kevin Putney and his son James, and the West Ham game, me and James are going, oh no, it's one of those games. It's one of those games. This is going to happen. And Kevin turned around and said, at 1-0 down, he said, believe in this faith, believe in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and of course we go and win 3-1 and he's getting, you know what I mean? I told you to believe. And then when we went 1-0 down against Man United, Kevin went, oh, I don't know, I think we're going to get him. Me and James went, believe. You know what I mean? Like, and it come up. There's a big belief about it all. And I'm going to be really honest. If we'd have lost that game on Sunday, I wouldn't have been shouting and screaming like I have done in the past and all that, because I can see that the players are working hard and all that. There was a time, I'm going to be really honest with you guys, that I think I was out of love with Arsenal, and that's what was frustrating me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what I've always dreamed of being like an Arsenal fan. Going back to when we was winning the Arsenal in the Arsenal Wenger day, probably going to be honest, took it for granted because I thought it was never going to end. I won't do that again, like, you know, because I've had some pain now. But I felt like I weren't in love with Arsenal no more. And I think that, you know, when you see players that, you know, that shouldn't be there and, but now, I'll be really honest with you now, Martinelli probably is my slight favourite still. But then I think to myself, well, I know I quite like Ben White now. And then, I don't know, I'm liking Saka now. Oh, no, it's Saliba. I'm going to have to say now, every single one of them, mate, you know what I mean? There ain't a weak link in this team, is there? Not a weak link, not a weak player.
No, I mean, let's go back to the Spurs game last year when we got battered, didn't we? And yeah, the recruitment in the summer has been, you know, I mean, outstanding. I mean, everyone's saying Spurs won the window in the summer, weren't they? And to be fair, they did recruit quite well. But we brought in two, by the way, you know, players from Man City who are, you know, serial winners, and that must instill in the side, that winning mentality. But it's, for me, the biggest plus for us, and again, you've got to give Arteta credit, is, you know, Saliba's come back from France from I think it was third loan spell, and everyone
for it by a lot of people.
Yeah, saying he's got to bring him back, and he said no, you know, he's going to stay out on loan, and he's come back in, and I mean, he's 21 years old, he's phenomenal, and you know. Lee, you know, it was like when we were coaching, you know, it's the saying out there, and, you know, strikers win your games, defenders win your leagues, didn't they? Yeah. And, you know, we're not conceding sort of silly goals anymore. And, you know, we're rock solid at the back now. You know, we've got 5 outstanding defenders now, and a goalkeeper as well, who actually starts a lot of our moves off. You know, and you know, I know he made an error yesterday for the goal, but he also made two outstanding saves, didn't he? You know, and these are all Arteta's players. You know, I know Saliba probably wasn't, but you know, he saw in Saliba that he needed to play, and you know, he's come back in, and Gabriel. You know, I said it to you at the beginning of the season, didn't he? He's making Gabriel look ordinary. You know, that's how good his start was. And it's pulled Gabriel up, you know, and he, like you said earlier on, he's not getting the plaudits that he should be getting, and you know, he should be getting them now. He's been outstanding, but it's the levels, isn't it? The levels have gone up, and everyone's pulling in that direction. And you know, it's a good time to be an Arsenal fan at the moment. I've not said that for a long time.
Yeah, no.
And it's all down to him, Arteta. You know, you can't praise him enough for what he's done. And he's not done yet either. He ain't done yet. He ain't done yet, Arteta.
No. I'm with you and all that. Like, no, but we've got a couple of minutes left, and we cannot leave without talking about one player. Took a lot of criticism, and still, there's a lot of fans I see are not convinced and all that. Like, you know, let's talk about him, Tom. Eddie, I thought he was outstanding against Tottenham, but people turned around and said, "Oh, he missed chances. He should have scored here. He should have done this." Yesterday, got the goals, and realistically, I thought the first goal, I'm going to say it now, like typical poacher's goal, if you like, you know, snuffed out the danger. You see the defender on his heels, which you know, like is the way it is sometimes, and he's in there like a gazelle. That's what I think, a gazelle. Like, you know what I mean, for the goal. And you know, I'm so pleased for him because he is getting a lot. He was getting a lot of criticism, but you know, we're not missing Jesus at this moment, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him.
Yeah, look, I don't know what it is about Eddie Nketiah that continues to kind of give people this element of still not being convinced by him. I can't put my finger on what it is. I ask people all the time, I was like, why are we still not convinced by him totally? You know, he at the end of last season came in and did pretty much as he could do in that period of time. And probably went beyond and did, I think, go beyond our expectations at the end of last season. And yet, when Jesus got injured and Nketiah was coming in, the primary concern wasn't actually Jesus being injured. It was the fact that Nketiah was going to be our striker for the next however many games. And he has just continued to, as I say, score, prove people wrong. But it's not only just the goals. It is the performances outside the goals. It's the contribution in the games. It's the pressure. It's the dropping in. It's the link up. It's the harrying and harassing of the defence. You know, he's bought into exactly what Jesus brought to the team. He can't do all the things that Jesus does, in the same way that Jesus can't do some of the things that he does, because they are still different. And I think Martinelli has probably suffered the most because of Jesus not being there. But Saka's come alive more with Nketiah there for probably that same reason. And I think that Nketiah now is just put a ball in the box in that 6-yard area, and he is 9 times out of 10, you know, lightning, and he'll give you the goals. And if you can get the ball to him in those positions, you bank on him to score. It's going to be very soon that people start, I think, talking about him in an England international context. There's still a question mark about who he represents, because I know the latest of it is that I think he turned the last approach from Ghana down. He's not said yes to England or Ghana at the moment. It's still very much up in the air. But the last I heard is that he turned the last approach from Ghana down, and he hasn't decided yet. But I'm thinking, besides Kane, you know, who gets into Southgate's squad over him at the moment? Because I wouldn't pick Watkins over him. I wouldn't pick Tony over him at the moment, especially with the betting allegations going on as well. I wouldn't pick Callum Wilson over him right now. I think he goes in, you know. And that who would have thought we would have been talking about Eddie like that?
Well, yeah, why not? I mean, I feel sorry for him, actually. I go back to the documentaries where, you know, when they were around the table and the Congo had been playing, and he started moaning that he weren't playing, and he epitomised his attitude to his football. You know, he turned around to him and told him, you know, shut up, get on with it. You know, I'm not playing. And it just shows that he's just worked his socks off. You know, he's transformed. You know, we've got to remember, this kid, he's a kid. You know, he's a youngster, isn't he? And bearing in mind, he's England's under-21 leading goal scorer as well. Yeah. And it's very rare, isn't it, for big teams to bring a forward through the academy and then to go on and be that main man. It's, you know, a lot of forwards are brought into teams, aren't they? You know, and you know, he's got his head down. He hasn't moaned. You know, you never hear anything in the press about, you know, him being upset or anything. He's just, you know, he's worked hard off the pitch, and you've seen pictures of him when he was a couple of years ago. I mean, now he's a tank now, and he's strong as you like. Yeah. But it's head down, hard work, and there's a reason why Arteta gave him a 5-year contract, and this is the reason. You know, Jesus has come in, and you know, don't get me wrong, he's outstanding. But you know, you can't. No one can knock what Eddie he's done. You know, he's a young kid who's come into a side who everyone, you know, is saying, "Oh, we're going to drop off. What are you going to do without Jesus?" And well, it's all clear what he's doing without. You know, he's banging goals in, and he's working so hard for the team, and that's down to him and his work rate, and his attitude, and the willingness to learn as well. You know, a lot of people with strikers, it's now and then, isn't it? If you're not scoring goals, that's it. You're out. But it's a learning process that he's gone through, and we're seeing the fruits of that now. And you know, he's banging on the door for an England call-up, definitely. You know,
yeah, I said in a previous podcast, I think it was on the Invincibles. I think I said what for Arsenal to be successful, what we need is, like, come March when the internationals come out, that Eddie is in the England squad, because that means he's banged in enough goals to take us to where we want to go, and that's where it is. You know, I think that he's proving people wrong. And again, a lot of Arsenal fans weren't for him and all that. And listen, he's proving people wrong, and I love it. You know what I mean? And long may it continue. You know, I've never been one of these ones that, by the way, you know, people going mad because he was wearing a number 14. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh man.
It's unbelievable that. Like, I'll tell you what, in our day, if you've got number 14, you had a tracksuit. Like, you know what I mean?
I had that lot.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you had number 14 a lot. You know what I mean? It's you know, like, listen, this numbers thing and all that, like, you know, I don't know, but like, he's doing a great job, and that's what we like to see. Like, you know? So listen, we've come. Oh, that has gone quick, isn't it? Like, you know, so we've done 55 minutes. Of course, we've started a little bit late, so we're gonna have to finish a little bit early. First of all, Adrian, great debut, that son. Like, you know,
no, thank you. No, I really enjoyed it, Lee.
Your semi-pro debut, that was. Don't worry about it. Like, flawless. Well done, flawless.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So there you go, like, you know what I mean. Tom, thanks for coming on. Like, a real pleasure. Lovely seeing you this afternoon as well. Like, you know,
likewise, mate.
So there you go. Now, hopefully, Dave's in the background. Are you in the background, Dave?
We wait. Is he there?
Are you in the background, Dave?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
You know what I mean? Take us out, Davey boy. Take us out. Thanks for watching, everybody. And listen, thanks for everybody in the chat as well. Some top questions and comments there. So thank you very much. I think Dave's fallen back to sleep again. Like, Dave, are you taking us out?